I'm here in Auburn at the Mises Institute with Mark Thornton. Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Hey, great to be with you.
Mark, you're perhaps most widely known for your work applying economics to prohibition, especially in regards to substances that the government deems illicit. So I want to ask you, I read one of your articles, A Vietnam Solution for Drug Victory, and in that, at the end, you liken drug prohibition to a morally reprehensible and intellectually dishonest crusade of self-delusion. Could you expand on this?
Well, I really think it is a delusion, and it's a misconception that the government is really trying to prevent us access to harmful substances. They're really trying to get control of our lives, and that's what people are complaining about now, is the after effects of drug prohibition, your privacy, your financial information, what you can and cannot do, what you can and cannot do with your family and your children, all sorts of different ways in which the government has gained control of your life through prohibition. It certainly hasn't worked in terms of stopping access to drugs. That clearly has not worked, but it has achieved its real intention, which is control over our lives. And therefore, we just simply need to drop it. It doesn't work. It infringes on our liberties, and it's something that has to be dropped.
What would you tell if you were sitting here with the heads of the Drug Enforcement Administration or the Office of National Drug Control Policy? What would you tell them on how to change this policy? What would you say?
Well, I'd say, you have to end it. But basically, these guys have been very successful. They've arrested hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. They've put them in jails. They've done their job. They've confiscated tons of drugs, and they've done all sorts of things. So it's not their problem. We've changed the people, and they've done a good job. It just doesn't work as a policy. Right. And they've simply got to give up and start working with things that do work for drug addiction, problems like that.
I want to transition to the Civil War. It's an issue that I'm interested in, an area I'm interested in. You have a lot of knowledge about. You co-authored a book on the subject called Tariffs, Blockades, and Inflation. What were a couple of the most interesting takeaways you had from that research?
Well, one of the most important things, I think, for everybody to realize is that the Civil War was not a result of slavery. The North was not, the Northern politicians were not invading the South in order to disrupt slavery. That was never their intention, and Lincoln said so. Their intention was gaining back economic control of the South and control over the cotton exports and all the money that involved. So that's one of the big issues. The other thing is the outcome of the war. Why did the South lose and the North win? And what we showed in there is that the South, the Confederacy, lost because it applied big government strategies to the problem. So they have a big army, they have taxes, and they had more inflation than in the North. And so all of the things that big government does to an economy in the negative, the Confederacy applied to itself, and it basically strangled itself.
You've written some articles on monetary policy of fiat versus commodity-backed currency. Could you give an overview of this issue for folks that aren't too familiar with it?
Absolutely. America has always been on gold and silver coins, basically, until the 20th century, when we transitioned away from gold and silver onto paper, and then ultimately off of the gold standard completely in 1971 and onto paper money. And since then we've had this, just never-ending inflation. You look at the monetary statistics and it's always up, up, up. Especially nowadays, it goes straight up. And that has negative implications for the average person. It devalues your money, it causes the business cycle, it redistributes money away from working class people into the elites in society. So the banks benefit, financial institutions benefit from the system, the federal government benefits, but it actually undermines everything that the regular American people are doing out there, and we don't realize it. It's done in Washington, D.C., so you don't realize, your paper dollar bills are not getting smaller, they're just having less value. And so it's a very insidious process, and it's something that must be stopped.
Right on. Okay, so it's 2009. The Iraq War has been going on for years. There's Afghanistan. There's threats of other wars, or saber rattling by our politicians, or not my politicians. I'm probably not your politicians, but politicians other people vote for. But in your article, War Thrives and Dives During War, you detail the harms that stem from war. But what we've seen, is some of the most outspoken proponents of war or an aggressive foreign policy tend to be those who claim to be for limited government. Why is there this disconnect?
Well, it's the neocon scam, basically. People who claim to support the free society, and yet they're the first ones to jump to the microphone in support of more war, more soldiers, more invasions, more occupations, more control of other nations, saber rattling, as you said. This is really the worst aspect of all government policies is war, because it throws off all sorts of social problems, real tangible social problems, mental illness, physical disabilities, broken families. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. In that paper I showed how the negative impact it has on art and culture because of resources swept away and burned away in the cause of, you know, some war. And so we also have to realize that this neocon scam is just that. I mean, they want to build up the pressure for war and aggression in order to get their hands on more resources and higher taxes and more inflation. And so it's just a cover story, and it's been this way for hundreds of years too. Countries claim to have an enemy, they invade them, and then they go into debt in order to fight the war, and then they raise taxes in order to pay off the debt. Meanwhile, government contractors are getting rich and wealthy off of this. So it may seem patriotic, but it's really just a scam.
So Mark, we've only scratched the surface of the work that you've done, and we're here at the Ludwig von Mises Institute, and there's some excellent scholars here that have done good work as well. So where would you point to as resources for people who are kind of new to these ideas? What outlets would you point them to?
Well, our webpage is Mises.org, MISES.org. Of course, it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, all the way around the globe. And you don't have to register. Anybody's free to go there and to read our stuff, to download it, to print it. It's all available there for free. And it's not just Austrian economics. We cover the entire gambit of libertarian thought, philosophy, history, politics, any issue that you have, basically, you can use Mises.org as a reference. Go in there and search for your topic, whether it's the price of oil or skateboarding or whatever. You're going to find something on Mises.org, and it's probably going to be one of the most interesting things you find on an internet search on your topic. So it's a wonderful resource, it's free, and we encourage everybody to use it, whatever their purpose or intent is. It can be a very helpful tool for everybody.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. It's a resource that's very exhaustive and extensive, and one that I know a lot of people that I interact with go to as you know, the place to learn more about these issues. So Mark, I thank you for your time and keep up the excellent work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.